Hi, in this video we are going to learn how can we add multiple event handler for a specific text box. So basically the idea is that let's say you have a text box like this and we want to add multiple event handler. So what do I mean by event handler and multiple event handler? So event handler means that whenever I do some changes on this text box, this particular code will fire up. Okay, this text box change event will fire up, right? Now I want this to fire up multiple times. Okay, so consider this scenario. This text box is allowed to have alphanumeric validation. That means that we can only enter alphabet and digits. Okay, now I want to create two validation class. One is for alphabet, another one is for digits, and I want to add those two validation on this text box. So basically whenever we'll type anything, then alphabet validation will fire up and digit validation will fire up as well. And if any of those true, or basically we can say if both of them are true, then we want to allow that. Okay, so that's what I mean by multiple event handler. But before going deeper, you need to watch my previous video on this topic, that is how can we achieve these events after update, before update, enter and exit in a class module without using with events keyword. And if you want to use with events keyword, then you will not have those events, and those events is going to be necessary for this video. Okay, so make sure that you watch that video and also learn about interface. I'll put my videos links on the interface in the description below. So let's dive into this part, and also I'll put this blog post link and you should read this blog post. It's really good. So we are going to use the code from this blog post. So I'm just going to copy paste this code. Okay, so let me just copy this. So this is the event control events punc class. Okay, but in my previous video I have refactored it to explain it better. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to use whatever we have from this particular blog post. So let me just update my class. I'm going to just replace with the new content, and then I'm going to import that. So punc class. Now I do have one interface, I control events. Okay, and if you read this blog post, we'll have an interface for that is this one. So I'm going to copy that, insert a new class, and let me rename that later. And this is basically that I control events. So let me rename that to I control events, and handler is I handle control events. So let me do that as well. Handler interface is this one. So this is I handler. Let me find that name again. I handle control events. Okay, so now let me just get rid of this card, close lines, and now this code will compile. Okay, now basically we have, let me just get rid of this as well, so not necessary. So we have this events punc class that is using this win API to build the connection between this class and text box before update or exit or enter event. We have control events, that is basically what to do on this particular stuff, like on enter, one exit, one after update, one before update. And then we have I handle control events, and this will implement what to do if that particular events fire up. Okay, so let's create one event handler. Okay, so I'm just going to say insert class module and alphabet validator, and I'm going to implements I handle control events. Now if you look at this, implements I handle control events, then I need to implement that. So I'm going to use rubber duck feature to implement interface. This is really not necessary actually, so I'm just going to get rid of that. So now you can see that I do have enter event, exit event, after update and before update, right? So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to add one more private text box as msforms.textbox. Let me just refactor this little bit, encapsulate failed, like this. Okay, now I do have this event handler, right? Now I can use this alphabet validator instead of this I handle control events interface whenever I am using that particular interface. Now I'm just going to show you the demo, just the printing message. So before update, so instead of saying before update, I can just say handle before update is okay. So let's see. So I get this, I'm going to class module events funcs target textbox1 dot connect. That's okay. Let me add a register event handler. So events func dot register handler, right? So before that, yeah, so I don't need this. This is a method, so actually I could just use like this handler as I handle control events. So I need to create that control events handler, right? So that is validator as alphabet validator equals to alphabet validator. Text box is going to be textbox1 and register validator actually. Now if I just run this code and let's see what this does, and look at this message, handle before update is fired, right? I'm going to add one more text box so I can show you that without exiting they're closing this user form. So that is this one. Let's run this again. Now we have 2, and look at this, handle before update is fired, right? So you can see. Now how can we do this validation? We can just add the validation code that before update we can check that if all the character is alphabet or not, right? And we can do that using text equals to textbox dot text, right? And then we can just say index for index equals to 1 to length of text and if. And how can we do this character validation? I have another video and I'll put the link as a card, so you can check that out if you want. So we can do using like operator. So if made this text and is started index only one character like A to Z, or then it's a valid one, right? And if, but if it's not, then it's invalid. Then we can say that this cancel will be true, cancel will be true, and then exit this particular sub. This is next index. Okay, so you can see I have added that validation on this before update. So now if I try to run that user form again, and if I just use like AS, and if I press down arrow, then I can exit that text box. But if I press 1, and then if I press down arrow, I cannot exit that. And I cannot exit that because I have returned cancel equals to true, because this 1 is not a characters. That means alphabet. It's not a alphabet, right? That's why I cannot exit this particular text boxes. So we have added that validation, right? That A is 1, and it will not allow you to exit that particular text box if it's invalid. Now we can do this character validation while changing this. I mean, when we are pressing this character, in that case we need the key press event. And if you need other events beside this, what is the list? Beside this 4, after update, before update, enter and exit, then you need to look into this Stack Overflow post, which has all the VB underscore user member ID for all the events. Okay, so that is exit event, after update, before update, enter, and then we have this change event, member ID, list click, drop button, click, and key down, key up, and mouse down, mouse move, mouse up, key press. So you just need to use this member ID and it will work. Okay, so we can have that validation on the key press event as well. Anyway, so we are going to handle this using before update. I'm not going to show you that key press, but you can use similar validation. So we have added this validation, and you cannot exit that particular text boxes when it's invalid, correct? Now let's add one more class module. So let me just duplicate this, and I'm going to just rename this to digit validator. Now I just need to change this to 0 to 9. I think nothing else is need to change. So I'm just going to use this alphabet validator. Now I can say, okay, we have this alphabet validator. Now I want that alphabet validator. Instead of alphabet validator, we can just use digits validator. And let's run this again. Now we have this text box, right? Now if I press 1, 2, I cannot exit that particular shaft. So let me just check that digit validator. Sorry, I have changed in the wrong place. So let me just copy paste this part, and this will be okay. Now if we run this again, 1, 2, and then I can press down arrow, but if I press A, then if I try, then it will not allow me to do that, right? You can see that we can have different validator. Now let's say I know that this will only allow a number of certain characters. Okay, so I can have a length validator, so min length validator, and in this way I am going to show you how can we use multiple handler for one specific text box, right? So let me just copy this same code, length validator, and I'm just going to change this part. I'm going to add a new property, min length as long. Okay, just refresh, refactor encapsulate failed, and wrap this in this as. So we have the mint length, and before update I'm just going to say that cancel is going to be true if length of this text is less than whatever the minimum length, right? Min length. So cancel is going to be true, it is less than the length of the minimum required length, right? So that's going to be true. In that case we can use exit event as well, but let's try using this handle before update. And now I am going to show you that text box 1. So we have this is one validator, right? Now I'm going to show you the second validator. So this is one validator, and I'm just going to copy paste this code. So second validator, second validator, second validator. Okay, and this is going to be min length validator, TextBox 1, validator 2 dot minimum length is, let's say, 4. So we need at least 4 character, 4 digit number. We can have a equal length validator as well. Anyway, so if I try 1 2 and then if I try to exit, then I cannot do that because its length is not equals to 4, right? But if I use 3 4, then I can easily exit that. You can see that, right? If I have 5 character, then I can exit that as well. But if I use like this, that 1 to AS, then you can see I can exit that. And this is weird, right? Because we are using digit validator and min length validator. So based on digit validator, this is invalid. But based on min length validator, this is valid because we have 4 as a minimum length. So why it's not working as expected is because how we are handling that multiple handler. So if you look at this, you can see a handler, and we are just looking through each of this particular handler, and then you can see that we're just passing this cancel. So basically this cancel will be returned from this particular stub as the last handler will return. So when we use this code based on the minimum length validator, that's a valid, right? So cancel will be false. But based on digit validator, that will be true. The cancel will be true, right? So if I just change this order, that use this validator first, and if I just run this now, then 1 to AS, it is not going to work. It will not allow you to exit that particular text box, and that is because based on this minimum length validator, this is valid, so that's okay for the first validation. But based on the digit validator, this is invalid, and the digit validator is the last one. So based on this, it's invalid, so it will return the whole return value will be invalid. So how can we do this without using this kind of clever way, right? So you shouldn't code for make the code clever, right? It should work if you use digit validator first and min length validator second, or min length validator is first and digit validator is the second. So how can we do that? It's just a simple single line of code that we can just check that if cancel is true, then exit this particular sub. So whenever I get cancel true, that means it's invalid based on any event handler. Then we don't need to check for further event handler. Now if I just run this same code and look at this, min length validator, the second one, and 1 to AS, then I cannot exit that particular text boxes. Alright, so this is how we can have multiple handler. This is one handler, this is another handler for same text box, like this text box 1 and text box 1. And in this way you can add more validation. Like let's consider that you have a currency text box and you want to allow currency value, right? So you can have validation like x need to be positive number, so positive number validation. Another validation could be like currency, we can allow that US dollar sign, so we can have a custom validation for that particular cases. And we can have validation like it's need to be a real value, right? And then another real numeric value. Another validation could be like, it's need to be a 2 decimal number, right? So you can have as many validation as you want, and you can add different validation in the same text boxes in this way. So that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any question, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing and sharing this video with your friends. Thank you. Have a good day.